in Barcelona.
Thank you.
We are fascinated about your conference you made the first day. You talk about feelings, you talk about emotion related to video games. That was splendid. It's a new way. In my opinion, it's a new way to focus the industry.
Yes.
Related to this, you were since the beginning in the video game development in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. What do you think about the video game industry nowadays? Perhaps it gets the feeling of getting a little lost. Or what is the feeling that you get to see in the video games?
Well, when I walk through the displays up there and see all the games, I think nothing has changed. These are the same games we were looking at 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They are technically superior, but they're the same designs. And I used to be angry at the industry, thinking, well, why can't you people come up with better ideas? And certainly there are a lot of ideas that they could do that they are not doing, but the central problem is really fundamental, and that is what I talked about in my lecture, that we need to be doing games about people, and people are really complicated, and there are a lot of difficulties making that work, and that is what has stopped us. We're stuck in a rut. Basically, the games industry has just hit a brick wall, and it's just
the lack of innovation.
Yep, but it's not because of stupidity. It's because you can climb the rise and get better and better, and then there's this wall that goes way up.
Yes.
And we have to jump up to there. Mm-hmm. And then we can continue. But right now that wall is simply too high. And that's why it has taken me 22 years to solve these problems. So I don't blame the industry now that I realize how serious the problems are. It's just, I don't know, it's an immensely difficult problem. We have to solve it. I think I've come up with a very early solution. By itself, my solution is not adequate, but it is good enough that we can build on it and start solving these problems.
Okay, that's a really good answer. How did you get to the game industry? How?
Charles Zoik was his name.
Okay, explain a little bit about it.
I was in high school, my second year in high school, and I met a guy named Charles Zoik, and he showed me a board war game. This was in 1966.
Wow.
And these were the war games where you have a big map with all the hexagons.
Oh, yes, I know. It's strategic games.
Yeah, and the cardboard counters. And he showed me that, and we played. In fact, that game was called Blitzkrieg, and it was from the Avalon Hill Game Company. And we played that all summer long. And so I got interested in these games, and I played them a lot. And I played them all through college. And by the time I was in graduate school, I realized that there was a big problem with these games, and that you could see exactly what the other guy had. And that was just wrong, and I thought, with a computer, we could solve this problem, because the very first microcomputers were just becoming available. This was 1975. And so I decided, if I got a computer, I could design a war game that would solve these problems. So I bought myself a Kim 1 microcomputer. This was a single board computer. It had 1K of RAM. The input consisted of a keyboard that had about 20 buttons on it. That's all it had, 20 little buttons. And the output, the graphics output, was 6 what are called LED digits. They're like watch digits, 6 of them. That was the total output. And everything had to be done with that. And I built a war game with that. I had to build my own computer, and I had to solder lots of things together, and it was an enormous amount of work. I remember the big time when I got my first big memory extension. I got 4 kilobytes of RAM.
Whoa.
It cost me $150, and that was in 1978. And 77. And it was a kit. So I had to solder hundreds of little chips in. It was a huge job, but when it was done, I had a much more powerful computer. And nowadays, you can get a 4 gigabyte thumb drive for what? $10, $5? And it has 1,000,000 times more memory than my board had. So times have changed.
A lot. That's a great memory, I think.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what is the biggest mistake that you learned the most of it? Generally.
Over all
Yes.
the time,
Or only one specifically.
the biggest mistake that I made, or
But
that
that you learn something and give you something positive, something to learn and to know, to do again.
well, the most striking mistake, the mistake that had the biggest impact on me, was actually rather small realization. I was working on my first interactive storytelling project, and it was based on the legends of King Arthur. And I had King Arthur and Guinevere. Were you at the thing yesterday? Yes. That situation where I realized that anticipation is a fundamental element of the way people interact. And if you don't have anticipation, it doesn't work. And yet anticipation is an extremely complex phenomenon. That really scared me because I realized this is really complicated stuff and very, very difficult to do. So that was the most emotional discovery. But there have been many moments where I, suddenly realized that something was not as I expected.
Well, it happens.
Yep.
People are complicated and have different feelings.
Yep.
So, related to another time with the video game industry, nowadays video games are used to different things, such as enjoy yourself as a hobby, but also for make military training.
Like what?
Military training.
Oh, yes.
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 Do you really think that in the future, in the near future, you can have video games that help people to get emotionally
So
well?
can I interrupt you?
No, don't worry.
Yes, she has it.
What happened?
Laya,
What?
your wallet.
Oh, I forgot my wallet.
Yes, you did.
I wasn't looking for my wallet.
Oh.
No, I just want to tell you that I'm gonna have a meeting with Jordan Mentioner.
Oh, good.
He will love to meet you.
Yeah, I'd love to meet him.
So in like 2 or 3 minutes up there.
Well, I have to finish this.
Yeah, well, just finish.
As soon as I'm done.
But it's in that tables, high tables.
Upstairs?
Yeah, upstairs.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
So my wallet, Raya has it.
Yeah. Better get it before she spends all the money.
Okay, so I repeat the question. Do you think that video games can help people to improve their health or even to get a better state of emotion or being therapeutical?
Theoretically,
in the near future.
not in the near future.
No?
Theoretically, yes. Play is how we learn.
Yes.
It is the most important way to learn. And so theoretically, you can learn anything by playing, and a game is an organized way to play about anything. But you have to design it so that it works for that. And our standard of design is very low right now. Our designers really don't know how to design a good game, especially a good educational game, and there is a reason for that. Our whole approach to education focuses on knowledge rather than understanding, on facts rather than ideas. And so when we try to use games for educational purposes, we always try to teach knowledge with the games, and that doesn't work. Games can't teach knowledge. If you want knowledge, put it in a book, because knowledge is static, it's dead, it just sits there. And so you can put it in a book and somebody can look it up on the book. But understanding is a process. This is a fundamental point. I have to step back and explain something about reality. Reality has two faces, two fundamental sides to a coin. Facts or things and processes. And that distinction shows up everywhere. In physics, we talk about particles versus waves. In economics, we talk about goods versus services. In mathematics, we talk about numbers versus operators. In military science, we talk about assets, guns, tanks, and planes versus operations, maneuvering them around. Over and over and over, we see this fundamental. In computers, we talk about data and processing. So we have this fundamental distinction. And the problem is that our minds are biased to think this way. If I went through there are lists of the most common words used in every language, and I looked at the list of the 1,000 most common words in the English language. Of those, 600 of those words are words about nouns or pronouns. They're about things. 300 of them are verbs or adverbs about processes, and about 100 are glue words for putting words together, prepositions, so forth. In other words, we have twice as many words about things as about processes. Our brains are biased to see the world as things. People look at a tree and they see branches, leaves, trunk, bark, roots. I look at a tree and I see photosynthesis. I see chemical reactions. I see water diffusing up through the tree, out to the leaves. I see the generation of sugar molecules. I see processes. These are two completely different ways of viewing the universe. And it's not that one is wrong or the other is right. They are different, and each one has its advantages. But we always tend to think in terms of the things. Games are processes. If you want to teach with books, think in terms of things. But if you want to teach with games, you've got to think in terms of processes. So if you're going to teach history, in a book you talk about dates and names and kings and armies and battles. In a game, you talk about how things happen, why things happen, the forces at work that made history take place. This is much more difficult. You have to understand it at a much deeper level. And that's our problem. People who try to do educational games rush in and do a quick job, and all they can do are the things. In order to do a good educational game, you have to understand the subject so well that you can write equations for it. You can describe how it works in computable terms, and that is much more difficult. Can you write an equation for the probability that two countries will go to war? There's a way to do that. In fact, there are a million ways to do that. But if you can't even begin to do that, then you can't even begin to do a game about that. That's our problem.
Perfect. That's very nice explication of the situation. Thank you. And a last question, a quickly last question. I know that you collaborated several times with the NASA. What is the experience that impacts you most working with them? I don't know, seeing the stars. It's very beautiful.
It happened in preparation for the big mission. The big mission was on, we started in Southern California, and we flew to New Jersey, and then we flew to England, and what we were doing is flying during the night and sleeping during the day. And so we flew to England, and we slept all day long, and then that night we flew to Israel and slept in Israel, and then the next night we got up, and that's when the big mission was. There were two things during this that were very powerful. The first was when we were flying from New Jersey to England. We were flying very far north, and we had what are called image intensifiers. These are cameras, they're night vision, except they make it possible to see very faint things. And so we were testing them and doing all the experiments to make sure they were working properly. And one of the guys suddenly said, "Wait a minute, there's the aurora borealis." And we were looking through it, and through the image intensifier, what you normally see with your eye is just these curtains and so forth, but through the image intensifiers, it was really bright, and you could see all sorts of little fine details and these webs weaving across the sky. I have never seen anything like that in my life, and right in the middle as I was watching it, a big slow meteor went right through the middle of the screen, and I just stared. That was unbelievable. And the second big experience was on the big night when I was taking data. We were watching for meteors and pushing buttons whenever we saw a meteor. And all of a sudden I saw more meteors than I could count. That is, they came so fast I was trying to count it. I couldn't remember, was that 11 meteors or 15, or there were just too many. And when you see that many meteors just pouring across the screen, nobody's ever seen anything like that. It was amazing.
Okay. Thank you so much for attending us.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to send a solicitation or web result. It's projected free. I don't know if you want to say hello.
If you could send me an email.
Yes, of course.
There's an address there that you can
Yes,
send.
I know.
They'll forward it to me.
We wish you the best of luck on your Kickstarter of support.
Okay.
And we hope to see it soon or in Steam or another platform.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your
just
time.
Just tell us about that, and I'd definitely like to see it. It'll be in Spanish, right?
No.
Oh, it'll be in English?
Yes, in English.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.